Hi out there, Nick Cicada here. It's been a while since I did a video where I mostly talk, but it's a beautiful summer's day here in City Park, and I'm out enjoying the grass and fresh air and trees, and I'm in the mood to make this video, which is kind of an interesting update on my previous videos on the subject of gender relations and dynamics in the modern age and sociological conditions among Gen Z and all of that. The current American sociopolitical landscape is like this grove of cactus. It'll really hurt you if you fall into it. So I've been going to therapy recently, and what I've realized is I very likely have sexual aversion disorder, or SAD. Now, I don't know how common this is among asexuals or aromantics, but it seems like it would be a pretty common thing, because when you're fundamentally incapable of experiencing sexual or romantic attraction in the way that I am, you probably wouldn't have a very positive opinion of sexual behavior. You have no reason to, because there's nothing that sexual behavior can gain for you. There's no advantage to liking sex. Sex is just a waste of time, boring, stupid, and a holdover from caveman times. The most primitive behavior it's possible for a human being to exhibit, which doesn't exactly align with my secular humanist tendencies, where I believe that human beings have sentience, and that's a wonderful thing, and we should really aspire to be greater than where we came from. So, in a sense, I'm transhumanist, but not transhumanist in like the let's all become cyborgs and implant ourselves up with nanorobotics type shit. I'm transhumanist in the sense that I believe we can evolve and become better people through like growth and evolution, you know, in the natural way. So in that regard, I've never understood why people have a positive opinion of sex. The way I see it, the only way someone would have a positive opinion of sex is if they have a subconscious predilection towards Judeo-Christian thought, which runs in direct opposition to secular humanism, which is like, you know, be fruitful and multiply, and let's make sure that all the new children are Christian, and let's reproduce our species over everyone else and dominate the world, and it's man's dominion, and, you know, all of this type nonsense that was outlined in the book of Genesis. But this is not a secular humanist principle, ultimately. So anyway, I've been going to therapy because I don't know if I've mentioned this in any videos, but recently I was threatened by a local hate group that said they were going to beat the shit out of me and they're going to kill me if they ever see me out in public, because they don't like asexuals. And I'm not sure exactly why someone would feel the need to do this to someone, but it happened. I've experienced literal threats of violence over the sexual orientation that I align myself with. So asexuals are not popular, I've realized, at all. In 2025, being an asexual is not considered cool, and people actively hate asexuals, which is, you know, I didn't expect that. When I first realized I was asexual, I didn't assume that there was such an anti-asexual sentiment, such rampant ace-phobia, but it's a real thing. So the last thing I want to do, of course, is assume that all sexual beings have it out for me, that everyone is a jealous boyfriend or girlfriend who gets pissy that I make friends with their boyfriend or girlfriend, or, you know, doesn't believe that platonic admiration is capable of replacing romantic love, or something like that. I don't want to make judgment blanket statements, generalizations about all sexual people. However, I have to admit that I don't have a very high opinion of sexual people when they say that they're going to beat the shit out of me no matter what, because my behavior is just too radical or thought-provoking for them or something. And then they tell me to go to therapy. Basically, they induce trauma that I have to go to therapy to fix, and then they expect me to like be friends with them again or something. I don't make friends with hate groups, and especially ace-phobic ones, you know, because I'm asexual. I'm not going to make friends with people who have an obvious, pronounced prejudice against asexuals or aromantics. If you threaten someone with violence just because they make you uncomfortable, say because they don't exhibit sexual or romantic tendencies, or because they're incapable of experiencing sexual or romantic attraction, If you threaten that person with violence because you're scared of them, then you're weak and emotionally impotent in all the ways that all the worst people throughout history have been. And you should go to therapy. I shouldn't have to go to therapy for you. You shouldn't inflict so much trauma on me because your life is miserable, because you have all these pent-up, perverse sexual or romantic tendencies or neuroses or whatever, that you dump it all onto me, tell me you're going to beat me up, and then send me to therapy. You should go to therapy and then, you know, deal with your problems in a healthy way. But I don't think that people who actively induce trauma and cause and inflict harm upon people should tell me to go to therapy, and then I have to go to therapy. That's not so cool. I have been going to therapy though, and like I said, I probably have sexual aversion disorder, which is in the DSM-5, I think, or at least my therapist said something to that effect. Also, I am definitely allophobic. I'm allophobic. I don't like people that have sex. At least currently, I have a very pronounced bias against such people, specifically because I've received threats of violence from them. But I admit that that's a bias, and probably an irrational one, and I want to work to overcome it, because at the end of the day, what I represent is a rational, secular, humanist sort of approach to things. And I am fully willing to admit that my brain is a fragile vessel, and effectively what I've undergone is the equivalent of a rat being hooked up to an electrode in a cage and being repeatedly shocked. You can't exactly expect the rat to be in the best of moods or the most rational of conditions. This is just the environment and the stimuli that is applied to an individual. Like, given the amount of dangerous and unpredictable things that people can resort to in their pursuit of sex or romance, I would think that more people, especially today in the 21st century, would just be like, well, I want to remove the sexual or romantic aspects of my psyche and replace them altogether with, like, the creative drive. That's a worthwhile thing to encourage while you diminish and devalue the sexual aspects of yourself as much as possible. Because once we're starting to threaten to throw punches and all, you know, that's not exactly an optimal way to live. Well, look, it's an apple tree. Nice. Not ripe yet, though. I recently got an email from a sexual person that said, you have been treated so bad by your exes. I guess they'd heard about this hate group that ganged up on me, like, not just online, but in person, all, like, clustered around me and actively threatened me with violence. He said, your exes have mistreated you, Nick. You've been through so much. And I was like, oh, you sweet summer child. You have to understand, I don't have exes. I've never had a relationship with someone that is close enough for me to consider them an ex. Maybe an ex-friend, but not like an ex in the traditional sense. I don't have exes because I completely devalue sexual and romantic behavior. Because the way I see it, this is the most radical, progressive stance that one can possibly take, is the complete devaluation of sexual behavior, which, as I see it, is irrational. And I don't like irrational forms of thought that bypass the cognitive process. That's why I don't like sex. I think that intellectual people, mature people, are capable of preventing sex and romance from happening. Like, the more mature you are, and the more intellectual your focus is, the more you're capable of just preventing sex and romance from ever happening. So I view asexuality as an extremely mature sort of framework. But I've never had a relationship that is so close that I would call someone an ex. Like, it's not a bunch of exes that grouped up on me and said they were going to beat the shit out of me. Let's not mince words here. It is a modern-day fascist movement. It is indicative of Latin fascism in the American mindset. The otherization, McCarthyism, witch-hunting bullshit that has plagued our nation since time immemorial. These aren't just exes or petty squabbles that threaten violence against sexual minority groups such as mine. These are fascists. and it's important that we call it like it is, and tell it like it is, and remain honest with ourselves about the biases that we carry. But this email kind of points out that all the time I'm dealing with sexual people who are only capable of filtering the asexual lived experience through an explicitly sexual lens. They can't imagine what it's like to be incapable of experiencing sexual attraction, because it's qualia, and qualia is, it can't be quantified. I mean, it's in the name, right? Qualia. The problem is that I am in a world that cannot fundamentally accept me, and I cannot fundamentally accept it. So we're sort of at odds here. I don't know any asexuals or aromantics who have my side in anything, and I live in perpetual fear that whenever I go out, like today even, it's just a pleasant summer day, but I am in fear, slightly, of being assassinated to prove some kind of point or something. That asexuals are not welcome here and do not belong in society or something like that, and it's extremely worrying. This, suffice to say, there are many, many sexual people who I feel comfortable around, and I understand have a healthy sense of boundaries and won't just jump my bones or kill me, either of which would permanently traumatize me. I mean, killing me wouldn't traumatize me, it would just put a permanent end to my existence. But regardless, I am disturbed when people tell me that they feel uncomfortable around me, or they're scared of me, or something like that. And because they're scared of me, they want to kill me. I think this is really fucking stupid. I feel uncomfortable whenever I interact with sexual people, in any capacity. Not completely uncomfortable, but to a certain extent, there is an underlying sense of discomfort unless I'm 100% sure that the person I'm talking to has no sexual or romantic intentions of any kind. If I was able to meet a fellow asexual / aromantic, I'd feel pretty comfortable and at ease around them, but other than that, I'm on edge all the time. So if I'm willing and able to interact with a world that is fundamentally governed by sex, where potentially every behavior that a human being takes is motivated by the materialist pursuit of sex, then they can interact with me. If I can put myself at risk by going out into the world and saying, "Hi world, here I am, I'm in it, I'm part of the world and you're just going to have to deal with that," then people are going to have to deal with that eventually. At a certain point, they'll have to mature and accept that I am who I am, and it is how it is, and the world is how it is, and we all just have to accept that discomfort is a natural and normal and unavoidable aspect of life. You're always going to have some part of life where you're somewhat uncomfortable, things are somewhat awkward. That's just life for me, because I'm surrounded by people who engage in sexual behavior all the time, but deny that they do, or act like it doesn't exist. And my generation is simultaneously sexually repressed and hypersexualized. There is an inordinate amount of emphasis and focus on sex, but at the same time, everyone denies that it plays any part in what they do with their life, which is just silly. It's a form of denial that's extremely unhealthy, I think. Everyone is paranoid and ramped up, and it's just a wild time, and you're going to feel discomfort. I feel discomfort every single day, and this is how people feel now, and I think they realize how I've felt all the time. All the time. There's not one instance where sexual behavior makes me feel comforted, or like it's cool or something. It's just pathetic and lame and a holdover from caveman times, and I don't get why we still do it. It's archaic, anachronistic behavior that is unbecoming of the 21st century human being. But all that said, I just wanted to remind everyone out there that it's very important we call out Latin fascist tendencies in America, that we hold fascists accountable, and that we do not permit them to eliminate diversity with homogeneity. If there are members of sexual minority groups such as myself, especially asexuals, because nobody tends to take the asexual lived experience into account, it's very important that if people feel uncomfortable around me, I tell them, well, I feel 5 times as uncomfortable around you, but I still tolerate you because I'm a civilized person and I accept diversity, and I accept that even if you are a sexual being, you're a human being and you're entitled to a basic amount of respect. So yeah, that's just today's little secular humanist dispatch for you. I am fully willing to admit that I am extremely allophobic, or at least I was about a month ago, but I'm trying to work on that and better myself, and I hope the world is calm and chill for a little while more. We're dealing with some fascinating times right now. I am living through recorded history as I speak. I am a participant in the tapestry of humanity, and that's really interesting. I'm glad to be here. It's beautiful, really. In a certain sort of way, it's beautiful, but there's so much fucked up shit going on right now. It's wild. Okay, this has been the video. Nick Cicada from the mean streets of Denver. I'll try and make more videos like this soon.